8 years ago, my life took an unexpected and dramatic turn. It all began one fateful night when my husband, Tom, uncovered the truth about my affair with my boss, David. Tom had grown suspicious over time. Late nights at the office, spontaneous business trips, the widening emotional gap between us. His instincts were right. When he confronted me with the evidence, the agony in his eyes was impossible to ignore. I couldn't deny it. The affair wasn't driven by passion or love. It was a collection of bad decisions made during a time when my marriage felt unsatisfying. I had been working for the company for 5 years, and David, successful, charming, and someone who seemed to understand me in ways Tom didn't, became a source of comfort. What began as simple, harmless conversation slowly escalated into something more. I convinced myself that the allure of secrecy made it worth the risk. But I was wrong. The night Tom found the emails, the proof was undeniable. He didn't shout or demand explanations. His face said it all: hurt, disbelief, and devastation. He left without saying a word, disappearing for 2 long days. When he returned, it wasn't to talk or to heal. It was to pack his things and leave for good. The months that followed felt like a blur. I took a leave of absence from work to avoid facing David, who I couldn't bear to look at. Tom wasted no time and filed for divorce. I didn't fight it. I knew the damage I had done, and I accepted that there was no undoing it. I moved into a small apartment in a quiet neighborhood where no one knew my name. It brought a sense of relief, but also served as a constant reminder of everything I had lost. The divorce was finalized within 6 months. The process was simpler legally because we didn't have children, but emotionally, it was a different story. Our families, who had been close for years, were torn apart. Friends took sides, some drifting away completely. The loneliness that followed was crushing, and I knew it was all my doing. Eventually, I returned to work, but I couldn't bring myself to stay at David's company. The whispered rumors and pitying looks were too much to bear. I found a new job at a smaller firm, where no one knew my past. It felt like a fresh start, but the weight of guilt and regret continued to haunt me. I threw myself into my work, trying to distract myself, but it never worked. Deep down, I knew I had lost everything that truly mattered. Over the next few years, I worked diligently to rebuild my life. I sought therapy to understand the reasons behind my actions and why I had sabotaged my marriage. Through this process, I realized that the affair wasn't just about David. It was a symptom of deeper issues with Tom and our relationship. Issues I had ignored for too long. Instead of confronting our problems, I had chosen to escape. Meanwhile, Tom had moved on. Within a year of our divorce, he began dating again and eventually met Emily, a woman who was a complete opposite of me, grounded, kind, and sincere. I heard that they were happy, and a small part of me felt relief knowing that he had found the stability I had failed to provide. 3 years after the divorce, I ran into Tom at a friend's wedding. It was the first time we had seen each other since everything fell apart. We exchanged polite words, but there was an undeniable distance between us. I could still see the remnants of pain in his eyes, and the guilt I carried came rushing back. I didn't know if he could ever forgive me, or if I would ever be able to forgive myself. In the years that followed, I continued therapy and even joined a support group for people affected by infidelity, both the betrayed and the betrayer. Listening to other stories helped me understand the true impact of my actions, not just on Tom, but on myself as well. The affair had distorted my self-image, and I knew I needed to face the truth of who I had become. By the 5th year after the divorce, I finally reached a place of peace. I had begun a small business with a colleague from my new job, something I had always dreamed of but never had the courage to pursue before. It wasn't an attempt to replace the life I had lost, but more of a fresh start, a way to carve out something new. During this time, I learned that Tom and Emily had gotten engaged. When I saw the announcement, I was hit with a mixture of emotions. Part of me genuinely felt happiness for him, knowing he had found the love and stability he deserved. Yet, another part of me grieved for the life I could have had, if only I had been stronger, more truthful, and less selfish. 8 years have passed since then. Tom and Emily are now married and recently welcomed their first child into the world. I sent them a congratulatory card, not expecting any response. But to my surprise, Tom reached out a few weeks later. He thanked me for the card and suggested we meet for coffee. He told me there were things he wanted to discuss, not to revisit the past, but to seek closure. When we met, it felt like reconnecting with an old friend, familiar yet distant, as if time had both healed and separated us. We spoke about our lives, where we had ended up, and how much we had both changed. Tom admitted that while the affair had deeply hurt him, he had come to realize that both of us played a role in the breakdown of our marriage. He regretted not being more attentive, not seeing the signs that something was wrong. Though this didn't excuse my actions, hearing that he no longer saw me as the sole cause of our problems brought some relief. He told me he had forgiven me, not for my benefit, but for his own peace of mind. He had a new family now, and in order to fully embrace his future, he needed to let go of the past. We parted on a note of mutual understanding, accepting that we had both grown from the experience. There was no dramatic reconciliation or rekindling of any old feelings, just a quiet acknowledgement that a significant chapter in our lives had come to a close. Today, my business continues to thrive beyond my expectations. I've also started dating again, but I approach it with much more caution. I'm now more aware of what I want and need in a relationship. I've come to understand that true happiness isn't found in fleeting excitement or distractions. It's about the steady, intentional effort to build a life you're proud of. The affair was the greatest mistake of my life, but it also taught me more about myself than I could have ever imagined. I'm not the same person I was 8 years ago, and for that, I'm thankful. I've learned to be honest with myself, to confront my flaws, and to work toward becoming a better version of who I am. The past cannot be undone, and I'll always carry the consequences of my choices, but over time, the weight has become easier to bear. And I've come to realize that while I lost my marriage, I found something far more valuable, myself. Sometimes, that's the hardest but most rewarding discovery of all.